Welcome to Sacred, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your intuition, resist exploitive systems, and remember the love that brought you to teaching and caregiving in the first place.
We're your hosts,
Angela Carolina Garcia
and Lauren Staubel. Join us on a rough and tumble journey of reckoning and transformation. Hey listeners, it's been a little while if you're listening in real time, and Angela and I are just following our life's invitations. So here we are. We're wrapping up season 3 with one of our teachers, Drisana McDaniel, who we fondly call Sister Drew. And but before we get started, let's just get settled. So wherever you are, find your seat or find your feet on the floor or the ground, and just take a moment to arrive there. And maybe you get there and you arrive there and you're like, yes, I haven't felt this in a long time. But maybe you get here and you're like, but I gotta. So just notice however it is for you. It might be something in between. But just as you're arriving in your seat or in your feet, just notice how that feels. And then you might just stay there. That might, and everything I'm inviting you to do is simply an invitation. But if that feels like a good invitation, you can stay there, or you can bring your attention to your breath. And as you breathe in, just feeling breath either on the inside of your nose or your mouth, whatever feels comfortable. And then letting the breath move back out. And breathing in, feeling the breath coming in, and feeling the breath going out. And if you want, you might even, the next time you take a breath in, see if you can send your breath awareness all the way down to your seat or your feet. Maybe just kiss a little gratitude into that seat or the feet for holding you, and then exhaling back out. And then inhale as deeply as you wish. Exhale as fully as you wish. And then feel free to stay there with your breath as present, with your breath as you want to be, and as you are ready, coming into this shared space. You might even look left or right, take in the physical space that you're in, especially if your eyes were closed. Maybe even just roll your shoulders a little bit. Yeah, everybody in the Zoom room is moving their head and neck a little bit. Yeah, whatever feels good. Especially early childhood educators, right? We forget we have bodies sometimes all day long, and it's nice to pay attention to them in ways that they're asking for. And we now have the privilege to introduce Sister Drew, who we know through the Acosta Institute, and she's been a teacher of ours for a long time, years now. But she has a framework that has spoken very powerfully to both Angela and I, the alchemy of now. And if you've been listening all season, you might have heard us say that word alchemy or alchemized. This is why. So Drew, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you too.
And we want to, it's okay if you've not heard any other episodes this season, listeners. So we want to read a quote that we read in the very first episode, and that comes from Bell Hooks. And she said in All About Love, New Visions, "In an ideal world, we would all learn in childhood to love ourselves. We would grow, being secure in our worth and value, spreading our love wherever we went, letting our light shine. If we did not learn self-love in our youth, there is still hope. The light of love is always in us, no matter how cold the flame. It is always present, waiting for the spark to ignite, waiting for the heart to awaken and call us back to the first memory of being the life force inside a dark place waiting to be born, waiting to see the light." I'm even just thinking about our pre-recording conversations now. True. What comes up for you when when you hear that quote?
Yeah, first of all, bell hooks is like one of my first teachers. And when I say that, I mean like before I even returned to college, I remember just poring over her books, like, and seeing and recognizing so much of what I wish I'd heard, right?
Mm.
And so much of what I wish I was able to articulate. And I tend to be that way. I think of like, and she actually came to Charleston. I was a student at the College of Charleston and had an opportunity to sit sort of at her feet in session. And it was like, yeah, for me, I just realized like the people, like the true goats for me, like the greatest of all times, are the people who can articulate a thing that I needed to know,
Mm.
you know? And I remember this is my second set of locks, but having locks then and sitting in the salon and just talking about bell hooks and people being like, what? You know, and just realizing like, oh, this consciousness raising thing, these conversations that are in this book are important for us to have with each other to remember ourselves, you know? So, yeah. So when it comes to self-love, that's an a very interesting concept. I'm often like holding that and thinking a lot about what does that mean? And so I think about a lot of words that are adjacent. So I think of Toni Morrison's source of self-regard. I think of self-regard. I think of self-care, and not in the material way, but self-care is in the like, I need to rest, let me lay it down. So self-love is a harder concept for me. But it's okay. I can continue to sort of like be in relationship with it. But it is a harder concept for me than thinking about sort of like self-regard, like remembering myself and caring for myself. So there's the other quote, right? That
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead.
No such thing. Yeah. Yes. Listeners, Drew introduced us to Ljubljana, and who's just a beautiful musician inspiration. Her story is very powerful. But I was like, ooh, I wonder what Drew would say about this lyric. Ljubljana sings, self-love is hard to find when you only see yourself through their eyes.
So I think now that I can get with, and I'll say why. I've been thinking a lot about, y'all know I'm just finishing my dissertation proposal, starting to write. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is methods. And came across something not long ago, thinking about personal narrative and like how to use that and how to work that into like a sort of methodological approach. And I came across a piece that shared something that Maya Angelou said about writing and how she writes for the subjective we. And so I've taken that and just, I can't get enough of it because it aligns with Ubuntu. It aligns with, you've heard me say, I'm not a self without others. I can't see myself inside of myself. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm surrendered to that. It reminds me of why we're on the earth together. So when I see that, I'm reminded that like, yeah, not seeing myself through the eyes of others, but being seen. I see you. I exist for you. Feels very much to me kind of aligned with that statement. And it helps me think about a collective we, and that also resonates deeply with any of the work that I do. You know, this idea that like it really is, you know, cathedral building for all of us. So yeah, so that's sort of how that lands for me.
I was just listening to Dr. Kia on her Ratchet Roundtable, her second episode. It's very good. If you haven't heard it, it's absolutely good and amazing. But in the episode, she, of course, talks about her thriving framework, and she brought up Ubuntu. And right, like you can't self-actualize, or you can't self-actualize if the community isn't actualized, and how that's entangled with itself, with each other. And I was was sharing with Lauren before we started the recording and before you arrived that I had just been in a conversation with, or not in conversation, I wish I could be, but I was listening to Tiokasan Ghost Horse from the Lakota tribe. And he was naming like the 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 individualism within the English language or the I-centric self within the English language. And he was sort of like encouraging us to, one, to reckon with that, and then also to be with a more communal way of being in the sense of how Indigenous people believe that they are with Earth instead of being on Earth. And I think that what you have just mentioned brings us into that piece of we are not ourselves without each other, or I am not I without you. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah, and this just keeps going. It's making me think of the Healing Helix mission that's related to the adults. We use helix because DNA is those two spirals together, and so the development of the caregiver happens in relationship to the development of the child or the healing. And so I know I have grown the most as a teacher from my students, and we say that all the time, right? That and actually now we're calling back to season 1 a lot here, because Dr. Kia was with us for season 1, and so was Sister Solana, and she said, babies come to us to teach us. They were our teachers. They came to us because they have something to teach us, and I feel like in early childhood education, sometimes we think of it in a more traditional way, or even like a colonized way of like, the child is going to give information to me or like pass something from them to me. But it's as I experienced it more and more, I realized how you would use the word entangled or just a minute ago, Angela, but even just how entangled we are, and in a way that actually feels good if you could surrender to it, which is like, I feel like with my partner, like it's much harder to surrender to that entanglement. We just, yeah, it's not like being with children for me. But it's still transformative, and we still need each other for that. Yeah, it's interesting to think about love and the ways that you were talking about, concepts that are adjacent to love that are kind of thresholds to exploring that idea, maybe.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you for that. I definitely feel like, and I say this often, that, there is never not a stage where I'm not the student of the children I gave birth to. There's never a time, even when it was, when Isaiah, who will soon be 27, when I was nursing him every night to Naima, to John Coltrane, always and so even in his not having words, he was my teacher in presence. He was my teacher in ritual. And so I just think that even last night I was writing about Indigo heading back, and just the sort of this braid of grief and gratitude that I'm holding in watching her go, and that how, parenting it for me at least feels very much that way. It's this deep, deep, deep love that is generous in how it stays with us as the students, stays with us as the relationship, so that resonates.
Love that is generous with us in that it stays with us. Is that what you said? That's the way that it's generous with us, by staying.
It stays. And for me, quite the contrary. That is the most enduring love I have, has been with the people I gave birth to and my sister friends. It has not been through a partnership. Now, I am deeply grateful for the beings that came through those partnerships, but I wouldn't. I don't know that. I don't know that in the same way. Yeah, honestly speaking, but the deep, 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 deep love. Yeah, it stays with us. It won't. It won't let us go. And notice, like, it's easier for me to speak about that than it is the self piece. And I think that I would probably connect that very much to like what you were saying earlier, Angela, like that this idea of like the individual is so foreign to me. It really is. Like it really is such a I don't it's never just been it certainly isn't now, but I can't even really remember when it ever was just about me. It was always looking to my relationships. To notice my own existence, if that makes sense. And yeah, that collective we piece, it just feels right sized. It feels right sized to me, which is why I really like that I appreciate you sharing that, because I do think that it's curious how we don't have the language for it. But it's also curious how some of us just know that by our way of being, right? In our bones, or by the way that we work. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I think a lot about love in the midst of heartbreak and like the layers of heartbreak that have happened in the last year. And I consistently remember the story of Jesus and the story of Jesus in the way of love. Like that's probably like my greatest teacher when it comes to love. And I think a lot about like even the concept of how love is entangled in like the joy that comes in giving, in turning, in ignoring, in letting go, and like how that's like this, like when I think of like when Jesus said like turn your cheek, right? Like if they hit, like I think it was something like if they hit you, then you turn you turn to the other cheek, like let them hit the other cheek too if they harm you, right? There was something like that in the New Testament. And like the consistency of like finding a way to give, right? Like when he made multitudes of food somehow for so many people to give to them. But like that is also love. And so I think when you were saying like self-care, and I don't remember the other word that you used.
Regard. Yeah.
Self-regard, how even that is like the giving of self, right? Like to give, like to self-care is like a gift to yourself. Yeah, that's what's like coming up.
I like that. Yeah, I think when I hear that, I also remember how essential, and I don't know, this could be edited out. I'm literally just a few days out of a devastating ending of a relationship. And devastating. And when I hear that, I know one other thing, I was talking with my dear sister, friend, colleague, and we were talking about, she's like, will you call him? Do you want to talk? And I was like, oh, no, I can't. It's been a year plus of too much of this. Like, I don't think that I would be well. I think it would make me so. And I said, and that is about care. Like, that is about care. Like, she was like, oh, you're so strong. I was like, not strong. Because that's not it. But it's about like, I can't get up from that. Like this recognition, like of I'm wrung out, and the devastation that comes with knowing that as well. And then at the same time, when I think about this turning the other cheek, I think it happens. I think I get smacked around by the people I gave birth to, relatively frequently. I mean, the youngest right now, I'll say, who's 12. Like the other two, not so much. But you get smacked around, and then it's like, I love you so much too. It's like there's this way that there is this willingness to come back,
Mm.
for that love, differently than picking up the phone.
Mm.
Like, what I know is caring for myself will keep me from harming this person. I can never, ever harm. I could never harm in the way. Like, I posted this thing this week and it was about that. And it's, oh, how we hurt each other is what I said. Oh, how we hurt each other. And I was just thinking, like, yeah, I can get smacked around, but I can't do the same thing. I don't know how to harm you in that way. And that to me feels also very much rooted in self-regard and self-care, because it would destroy me. I would not be myself to do that. So it just makes me think about that turning of the other cheek, to where it's like, okay, I'm going to turn I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a staying in one's. I mean, it is interesting because I feel the same. Probably not the same. There's no way you could ever completely understand another human being. But what you said resonated with me. I'm one of 23 grandchildren on my mom's side, and it's like a sea of people, like just moving. I always felt, and I'm an only child, interestingly enough. And so I've always felt more comfortable in a group of people, or understand my own ideas better once I hear someone's reaction to them. Oh yeah. So just staying, I wish I could draw something right now. I picture like there's a little dot that represents kind of my inner self, but with these spokes going out with all of these different, everybody's kind of inner self, but we're really kind of moving like fabric almost, and affecting one another, right? Of pulling this way or that way. And, but there is something about staying in the center, like, Brandi Carlile is one of my favorite musicians, and there was a line from one of her songs that helped me develop the collaborative emotion processing method, which was, you can dance in a hurricane, but only if you're standing in the eye. And that was like when there was somebody flailing on the ground in my classroom, actually, Angela and me, our classroom, when there was somebody flailing on the ground in our classroom, this lyric would come to me and help me to take a breath, but still like feeling, like the fabric of the classroom and sort of being pulled to this part of the room, where you might have to go fast to that side of the room. And once you get there, you can slow down a little bit. But it does, like, I feel good in that. It's so, mentioned the word vulnerable earlier, Drew, but like even entering kind of a new space, a new social space is so vulnerable, right? Because we don't know if it's safe to be pulled or how or to pull. Like, yeah. Actually, that might go into our next. So we are also thinking a lot about discernment, and Angela she spoke about Jesus, and she's the one that brought this phrase from the Old Testament into this season. But from the intentions of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so we're thinking about discernment in the context of the words that come out of our mouth, in relationship to what we feel in our hearts, in our teaching and caregiving relationships. And I should just mention, Drew just taught at an International Healing Centered Education Conference on the topic of discernment and fortitude. So I was really excited to be able to ask you about that.
So let me see if I'm hearing. So are we sitting with the idea of how the heart informs what we say?
Yeah, and what do we discern, right? Like, what are we? In previous episodes, we talked about ancestors and thinking about, things our ancestors did or the things they said that pop into our head. And I end up being called to write something about that in your writing workshop actually recently.
Yeah.
But like with discerning, like, well, maybe I don't need to say the thing that just popped into my head because that was a different time, that process of discernment. And so is it our heart that's speaking, right? Like, how do I know? sometimes we're like, this is just me or whatever. Like, but is it like that process of like, okay, it feels like my heart wants to say this. But how do I, yeah.
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 No, thank you for that. Questions are great because, you know, we're given the opportunity to search ourselves. So I'm just thinking about, so when I hear that and when I think about the heart, and I don't have any like really profound theories about the heart. What I think comes up for me is, how do my feelings,
Mm,
as well as what is activated in a moment, relationship to situation, how does that inform what I emit, what I say, what I do?
mm-hmm.
So that might be, yeah. So that's kind of the way that I'm hearing that, and this is where I feel like, even as, and I would consider myself, we haven't talked the geography question yet, but it would be related, but I would consider myself a person who is oriented in a contemplative way to the world, right? So contemplative meaning all the things that I talk about in the framework: attunement, noticing, slow work, turning toward. All of these things are really, they're true for how I am in the world. And at the same time, I'm also very clear that that doesn't necessarily align perfectly with right speech.
Mm. Yeah. I was just
Right?
talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily align with right speech, you know. Yeah, I can totally come out of my face about some things, and I want to say that that is just part of being human. You know, now in terms of, let me think about if I'm talking about right speech in terms of like maybe how I'm framing something, that I think is informed by like reverence for the work, reverence for what it is that I'm doing. I think that inform, and even to call it all work is kind of like, but reverence for whatever it is that I am inside of, right? Like a conversation that requires a bit more care and patience, maybe, or I often think of, we're talking about the heart informing like what we say, but I think of the same with my writing. It's like, in what ways does, talking a lot about poetics now, so in what ways does this want to be said in such a way that not only is born of my own feeling, but also what I hope the work, like what I hope would come through and affect someone else. So I'm thinking a lot about, along the lines of collective, is collective affect too, and how our feelings aren't our own. And I think it might be why I'm maybe full circle. Maybe that's why I'm saying that sometimes like what comes out of my mouth might be something else. It's not having responsibility for myself, but it is recognizing that we are deeply enmeshed and entangled in even how we express ourselves. When I think about this idea of collective affect, I think about collective affect, and I think about it with attachment theory also. I think these two things together often, especially coming from a lineage of people for whom feeling was dangerous, for whom feeling put you at risk. Risk of being fired, risk of being assaulted, risk of being evicted, right? All of these things that could happen by you being a feeling being. And so with that, with this acknowledgement that our feelings aren't always our own, I guess I want to say that I think if I'm trying to come full circle, that might have informed the original way that I was sort of answering that when I said, oh, when I think of the heart or feeling, it's complicated. I mean, how many people are inside of me, right? Whose ears, whose tailbone, right? Whose throat chakra, you feel me? Like, is it forming the way that I respond to things, right? Informing how I hear, how I see, and then how I bring something forward as a result of that. So I don't know if that gets too, it's a rich question. I'm so grateful that you put it forward. And that is literally what is present for me when I think about holding those, those ideas.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does feel like you have begun on the second half of this, which is a question that Sister Yoli, who was our guest in the first episode, asked at that International Healing Centered Education Conference that the Acosta Institute hosted. She asked the participants, what do your geographies say about your discernment and fortitude? And then I was like, I would love to hear Drew's answer to that question, if you would be willing.
Yeah. So, yeah, that goes right with, doesn't it? Given that we are place. We are so many places. So I grew up in an Air Force family. And I could tie that to every single thing we've talked about already, from the individual to vulnerability to, right? Like there's just so many to relationships and, growing up military means I moved around a lot, and I moved around a lot. So born in, my maternal lineage comes from Biloxi, Mississippi. I was born there, and then we moved to California. My paternal lineage is from Virginia. So deep South, deep Southern, Southern Black family, and then Northern California, and then Denver, Colorado, and then Germany, and then Charleston, and then I went to Atlanta for a long time, and then I came back here. So one of the things that I recognize about geography and place is how, situatedness shapes our discernment. So being new always definitely made me, I've always been able to scan, right? Notice what's around. Never answer this question, but know that has something to do with my attunement piece, like this noticing, this capacity to notice, because it was essential to survival. It was essential to fitting in, to creating belonging, to masking, to, you know what I mean? All of those things, right? The fortitude piece. We're talking about just discernment right now, right? Just discernment.
That's what we've been talking about in the podcast, but okay.
Yeah, we could stay there. Okay. So it wasn't until, so I think that when I came to Charleston, this place has kept calling me back again and again and again. Again and again and again. And Charleston is a place that it is marsh. It is the state of Harriet Tubman's Combahee River Raid. This is where I live. I live off a highway where there are two former plantations masquerading as gardens and home and garden right now, where there are stores regularly. I am living on land that I am constantly listening to in terms of what it needs, because so much has been taken from it. And it's delicious out here. It is, I'm supposed to be here. It is such a nurturing, humid, green, Spanish moss-filled, magical bounty. And paradoxically, it's the place of the entry for so many West Africans. It is a place where the Gullah Geechee folk are well established, and where ritual is still here. There's so much that I make contact with here because of place-basedness, if that makes sense. I can listen differently here. I know that my coming here again and again has to do with the fact that this is the place for me to do the work that I am doing. And even now, just writing about this. I work with the B Collective, so it's beloved early childhood education work, but it's also we do work around maternal mortality where we live. We live in a state where most children are expelled from preschool, like the highest number, and is concentrated here. So there's a lot of work to do. But my point is, there's a lot of healing work to do. There's a lot of really good work to do in terms of like, we have a home space now where there's all kinds of incredible things happening that I'd have to tell you about another time. But one of the things about this place in the Alchemy of Now retreat that I held last year, right? The in-person was on an old rice plantation with Black and brown birth workers. And it was beautiful, and it was powerful, and it was reclamation and restoration. And that is the kind of thing that can happen, I think, when I'm listening for what work wants to come through. So I think that, I think that's what I want to say about place, is that like where we are, where we be at, helps us to develop a sense of discernment. And I know it now probably like I've never known it before, because this is home in so many ways for me. But again, the work that I'm doing, the rich, life-giving work that I get to be a part of, could not have happened anywhere else. It had to happen on time, in this way, in this place. Where, we have a deep ancestral midwife lineage, to grow from, and that informs how we do work. It's place. And one of the things that I was just recently writing about is also here, you can be driving, and all of a sudden, this happened recently, you're driving past cotton fields. So there's also the paradox of like deep trauma that is constantly sort of almost reactivated without you even knowing it necessarily. So it's a place, the paradox of Melanie Harris, she's an eco-womanist, talks about the paradox of beauty and burden, like both being here. So I can talk about it being really, really magical. I mean, we had a storyteller recently at Insaroma House during the Kwanzaa ceremony, who was reading about everything. All these little children were just like, the entire book was about Gullah culture, the blue bottles, the bottle trees, the blue doors that keep the Hain. So like how the iron work that is, and she's like, this is all yours. This is all yours. This is what you come from, this beauty, So it just really it was really just magical and amazing. And so this is the kind of space we live in, right? So I'm really happy to belong to this place in the way that I do. And I also want to say that one of the things that I'm also very clear about is people of diaspora. In particular, people of African diasporas, we are literally everywhere, have been everywhere, and we are everywhere because of colonization. So I was in Puerto Rico for this summer for the National Women's Studies Association conference. I'm sorry, it was November, not this summer. But even there, I felt a thing. Even there, right? I felt a thing. And even this is going to sound so petty, but even getting in an Uber and people like talking to me in Spanish, like thinking that I'm from, and I'm like, I'm just like, we're everywhere. I know, and so there's that too. And I feel like that is a kind of discernment to like land in a space that feels right, walking up and down the streets of Old San Juan and feeling the energy and the rhythm and the culture and feeling not apart from it, but feeling a sense of rightness there. So I mean, I don't know if that gets at what we were trying to get at, but that's how it is for me, at least. And such a beautiful question.
Thank you for all of that. I moved around a lot by choice. I started traveling at 21. and lived in different countries in Europe, lived in Belize, lived in different states, and I've like traveled everywhere and always like, I'm just going to stay somewhere. And the place I stayed the longest was Massachusetts, but I always wanted to come home. It was always like I always came home to visit. And now I live at home for the first time in my adult life. And I'm like, oh yeah, like the discernment that came from like having lived in other places and like that, like awareness. I think when I left, El Paso and Chaparral are so homogenous and everyone has a similar immigration story. But then I left at 21 and it was like, oh, I'm a little bit different. I'm a lot different in some spaces. But that new thing started to happen of just being aware and like the trauma that came from that of like being so protected. And then all of a sudden, like I'm in this world that like there is racism, there is colorism, there is difference, there is classism that I hadn't ever really experienced as an adolescent and as a baby. At least that's what I thought. I mean, maybe it's in there somewhere deep in there. Or maybe it's like healed and now it's resting. I don't know. But then home called me back. And I really, for a long time, thought it was that like I was being called back because of family. But in being here, I think I've probably mentioned this too. It's actually the mountains and the trees that called me back. And now work is happening and like community work. And this morning I was talking with a dear friend and I was like, I'm so happy to be here. Like, this is my community. Like, I do know how to advocate for my community. I do know who my neighbors are. I will get to know my neighbors even more. I will provide spaces for them to be able to gather, to be able to access food, to be able to access professional development, whatever it is. I like get to be a part of it now. And I don't think it could have never happened before. Like I had to go do all of those things. I had to live in Massachusetts for as long as I did. I had to have the heartbreaks that I had and to be here because like all of that allows me to like hold the heartbreak that I feel in relationship to my family, in relationship to losing a lover, in relationship to having left my community in Massachusetts. But like all of the past experiences gives me the capacity to hold that while also like being so excited about what Chaparral is going through, what Chaparral will be going through. And like, I just get to be a part of it and provide care work. Cause like, that is my work. Care work is my work. So thank you for like framing it. Cause I'd never even thought about my geographies as discerners or helpers of my own development of discernment.
Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. And another way I think we can just trust the way also, right? Because like you said, it couldn't have been before. I feel the same. Right. I feel the very same way. It was all virtual or it's this. And now I'm literally, in the community. My child will be making murals for the home, like we are living into it. And it's like, had to come back. And I don't know who's come through here that's part of my lineage, but this is home. This is home. In my bones, in my bones. And it is pluff mud that makes me know it. It's that smell. You know what I'm saying? For real. Yeah. That delicious smell of pluff mud. I'm like, God, it's just, like I know this stuff,
I don't know that stuff, and that's how I know my home is Holyoke.
Yeah, there you go, right? See? Yes. Right?
It is.
You know what you know.
Thank you for mentioning smell, though. I feel like that's a scent that has gotten forgotten, and but it's a very important for survival. So that's a tangent, but I also have returned home. Holyoke has called me back several times in my life, and I have felt not myself, living in other places in Massachusetts even. And since actually, since we started going to the Acosta Institute events with nature, both Angela and I, our work has become meandery and more formalized too, actually. But both of us have felt the call to return home and to be like, I served on Thursday in my childhood neighborhood, which felt so good. And I drove past the preschool building that I went to as a child and saw it was vacant. And I was like, I think I need to find out about that space right now. Yeah. So gonna find out more about that. But yeah, so just things, right? Because the space speaks to us in different ways. This might seem trite, but it's always felt like a deep concept to me as working with young children of like, we put away a material for a little while and then we take it out again 6 months later. And it's like this, like the joy that the child expresses upon rediscovering this thing now that they've had all these other experiences. And they do really cool stuff with the material that we thought like we could have easily just moved it along or given it to another classroom, but we put it in the closet and then we took it out again. It does feel, you kept talking about your home like magical, but I think that to me, that means there's something unexplainable, right? There's something visceral or there's something spiritual about that homecoming and right, to allow us to express something other than ourselves, or there it is again. It's like that. Could go on and on.
You're naming the sacred, though. Like you're naming, and I'm deeply grateful that you're able to name that in relationship to watching children and materials, like returning to this return, right? The sacred, and I hear mystery when I talk about magic too. It's like I could call it the mystical. I could call it mystery. Like all of those, I befriend. I'm drawn to. I'm sniffing them out. For real. Like so, in all the ways. In all the ways. So thank you for naming that. It's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. It also makes me, I think in season 1 we talked about imagination a lot. And we also talked a lot about, or at least I remember me thinking of like, how do you come up with something new when all you know is what you know? And so the brain is like trying to like it knows what it knows. And so like, there's like that piece. And then in this moment, thinking of like Native American teachings of like, we have everything that we need. Like we can't make anything more. It already is here. That same conversation with Tioka San Ghost Tours, it was like, be like Earth. She keeps giving and giving and giving. And I've recently started like, even like just now thinking, and Bayo Akumalafe in another conversation asked a question, or maybe it wasn't him, it was someone within 10, maybe, I don't remember, 10 and the Emergence Network, but it was something like, what can you get from a world that's already exploited? And so like, there's these things, and then even as like right now, the invitation or like the reminder of like, you bring something out that the kids have already played with and something new emerges. And that has come up a lot this season of, we already have what we need. It's just, how do we sense into ourselves, calm ourselves, slow ourselves down to then be able to remember the resources, the magic, the mystery, to begin to play again. Something that Teokasan also said was like, there's nothing new and there's nothing old. There just is.
Oh.
Right?
Come on. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. and like where like and how like what surrender does in there somehow, right? Like I think that goes into like this. I think the last question, and it's in the it was in the chat, but now there is no chat.
Oh yeah, I let it
because it disappeared. But it says the last quote, and this was Lauren and I playing, and then we texted it to you one day. But the thing that we were playing with as a potential truth is when we surrender to something greater than ourselves, the field or median in which we play with love and discernment, that which holds us and itself. When we surrender in this way, then reclaiming is alchemized from the intention or intellectual pursuit into presence as healing.
Goodness gracious.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, I have to say, I've read this quote many times, and there are moments where I read it and I'm like, I know exactly what that is. And there are moments like right now that I'm like, what the heck are we talking about?
I was thinking it's bars and bars. Those are bars. Yeah. I mean, you also might not have been thinking when you may have allowed it, right? It may have been, you know. I often feel like, well, I mean, that doesn't, if that doesn't get at the second part of the sentence either, like, I often feel like the thing comes through. It just comes through. And then you're like, oh. Then it shifts from like, oh, well, this is what I want to do with this. To, it shifts to the isness. And I know that can sound really abstract, you know, like I don't really know any other way to talk that. Like, I really think, no, I think it's a problem that we have periods on our sentences. I think it's a problem that we're supposed to like wrap up an idea. Like, I think we should just be drifting off, and then someone comes in like, yeah, bars. Someone comes in like, oh, right. You know, like, that is it. Like, that is it. I know, that's why I'm not a good PhD student. That right there is why I'm not a PhD student, because I'm like, but a definition? You know, like, what do you mean? Like, sensibility. It's a, vibration. Like, it's not a...
That's how I felt about writing a book. I was like, as soon as that thing was published, I already thought of 5 other ways I would have said that thing or added this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, Angela, if we ever write a book together, let's make it a Google Doc, and it's a living document. It just never ends.
That's right. It's a living gun.
Yeah.
As soon as you get published, right? That's how I feel like about the couple of things that I have that are published. Is I'm like, ooh, I have very different ideas about that now.
Yeah.
Right? That was a moment in time. That was before I was becoming. Come on, you know, like.
Thank you for the validation. That resonated with me. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You said it comes through us.
It comes through us. So even like, so now that I'm looking, here's what's also kind of not fun, but here's what's also like lovely about this time we've spent together, because now when I look at this and see play with love and discernment, I just think about what we've been talking about. So I have a different relationship to even this in the beginning, or now, than I did in the beginning, because of how we've been holding the concepts around love and discernment. It's like brilliant, actually. That I don't know if y'all did that on purpose, but like, it's very, It
inspired our themes this season.
But I'm talking about like the order of how we've talked about things. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know if you. I don't know. I mean, but now
it came through us, I think.
Came through.
Yeah.
What it does, right? We don't even have to know, do we? We don't have to know.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes.
So that second half of the question, or not question, but this statement is when we surrender in this way. And I think that's what happened, right? I think we played. I think we were in mutual witness of each other. There was awe, right? I think I had chills for sure. Deep gratitude for just being able to share the space with you two beloved people. And so then there's this like way that, oh, well, I don't know what we intended on doing, but it happened. I mean, it felt 1,000 times better than I did when I got on. And I live for that. No, I mean that. And I look for that. And oftentimes, like in my meetings during the day, I'll say things like, oh, thank you so much for, because that it really, this is all there is. I mean, this is all there is. Like, and the alchemy can happen in that moment. It's happened over an hour for us, right? This alchemy, at least for me, where it's like, full presence, just let what wants to come through us. And oh my gosh, what a gift. Because I'll never be the same.
Right. Yeah. I'm reading a book on water, and I talk a lot about water in my work as like water as the medicine in caregiving, like how water holds us, and it just holds so much, or has the capacity to hold so much. And it's like I'm also thinking about it, like how in the midst of healing, or like healing becoming a part of, like it's like a buzzword right now. It feels like we're all doing healing work. We're now healing. It's like the next best thing to put on your title for a book. It'll definitely get published if you put healing in the title somewhere. It seems like. But right, like with this idea of like at the end of that book, or at the end of the thing, there is this period, this ending, but that isn't what healing is. Right? Like the conditions have to be there. The awareness of oneself, the awareness of who's around. And then also the piece of, right, like when I think of trauma and like healing from a traumatic event, and then triggers, right? Like the like something triggers you. And it's not like you become unhealed because you get triggered and remember, right? Like the scarring. Lauren has recently been playing a lot with cicatriz, which is a word in Spanish that I had never actually played with. I just knew it because I speak Spanish. But cicatriz is scar, scar tissue. The leftovers of a wound, is a cicatriz. And Lauren always says, like, you can never go back to being fully healed. But you also don't ever go back to being fully wounded.
I think we have to end there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I felt that in my, like, deep in my gut. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless something is coming through either one of you, which I'm happy to make space for.
No. That's good.
Okay. Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And it's been such a joy.
Thank you. Yes.
I was trying to find something I wrote about some time ago, years even, but it was about we're constantly in, rebuilding and an atrophy. Like it's just, there's no healings and orientation. Direct. Never, ever, ever. We never arrive there. At least my orientation, we're doing healing work. We heal in an hour, maybe. Experience is healing, an encounter is healing, and then back into, the jungle.
The jungle.
Yeah. But thanks, y'all. This has been really, I seriously feel so grateful, just and energized, and again, especially after being gone, like late, and those things.
Yes. This is so beautiful. Thank you, Drew. And
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. To keep the conversation going and find out more about our offerings, sign up for our mailing list.
And if you want to play more with in real time exploring these ideas in this episode, please come to the next campfire chat. We look forward to our next sacred conversation with you.
Check out the show notes for details.